Continue for 3 kilometers.
Outsider, he had no allegiance to the old IBM. Every new CEO of a company enters with a mandate of sorts, but some mandates are stronger than others. Gerstner was CEO and chairman and had unfettered control of IBM with proposed immigration reform. There is no high-tech labor shortage in America, no matter what. Top management would remain, the sales organization would endure, as would employees working on U.S. government contracts that require workers to be U.S. citizens. Everyone else would be gone. Everyone. And remove talented and valuable U.S. employees in favor of moving work to low-cost. The Tea Party would run America. Just look at IBM. Much of the rest of this book deals with how the company is attempting to grow sales and cut costs. But this little chapter is devoted solely to the other side of the
In 500 meters, continue onto A1.
Shares. If you spread declining profits across a pile of shares that is getting smaller even faster, that, my friends, is called earnings growth. Yeah, right. The number of outstanding shares is reduced through buying them back from existing shareholders. This is often presented as a really good idea because it effectively gives money back to shareholders through what's presented as a more tax-efficient manner than a simple stock dividend. With a dividend, you see, IBM would first pay corporate income.
Continue on A1 for 101 kilometers.
Reducing the total sum available to be distributed to shareholders. And when the dividends were distributed to shareholders, they'd pay income taxes on it, required $1 billion buying back shares, thereby reducing the number outstanding by about a third. But there's something odd about the way IBM buys back its own shares. The company does it with borrowed money. The usual scenario can't see how it can natively return more on the money than could the S&P 500 index. A truly teachable lesson emerged from a couple of those horror tales, and it had to do with U.S. IT labor economics and immigration policy, especially H-1B guest worker visas, Shield and Mary Maids. Among its many beefs with IBM, ServiceMaster also had a server monitoring issue. In this case, it involved the database for one of ServiceMaster's major business applications. Different groups monitored the servers, operating systems, storage, and databases. Most of the monitoring was done manually, and sometimes not at all. The primary way IBM would know there was a problem was when ServiceMaster complained. One evening during an application change, monitoring ServiceMaster's applications and databases, it was not in IBM's cost case. How can a company want to diagnose and results? It should show the actual times tasks were started and completed. Problems should be logged. The important question IBM should be asking itself is, couldn't we do what Lenovo will be doing? IBM's sale of the X Series group is more than a financial hardware sales. It implies there will be reduced support costs from services too. Cloud means lots of customers, and identifying and gathering that data. Alas, I fear that in analytics, IBM is too little.
End of An American Icon, written and narrated by Robert X. Cringely. Executive producer, Chris Fogg. Production supervised by Jacob Hardin. Copyright.
What was you regret? You harm. So, therefore, it's very important that you see not only, particularly for the benefit of others, and also for yourself. problem is communication. Sometimes you say something, you may say something, but you don't know how to express it. Sometimes emotion, people have difficulty to express it. So take the, do you know what I'm saying? So anyway, the main thing what I'm saying is that sometimes when you're really frustrated, you know, it's good to, do you know what I'm saying? When you're very paranoid, you can even, if somebody is trying to be very friendly and very love, like for example, if somebody really loves you, even though you're not able to return your love or respond that way, at least it's very important to understand the other person. Sometimes, and that's why I think it's very important we should care. Am I clear? Have a tremendous regret, but then by that time it might be too late to have a regret. Because also it is said, really realize that person does not understand, he or she is completely ignorant. It's like then there's like a kind of, you should try to always forgive. Even though this person is hurting you, you forgive them because of the ignorance, because they're deep. Something kind of, you know, and when this kind of situation, it can wake up. And then if you really wake up in a good, it will still be love and understanding. You see, you understand? So therefore, very important thing is to develop deep friendship, understanding, and also giving and receiving, and understanding also. Do you remember you used to say, when you used to give blessing to married couple, you would say, when the husband or when your partner is a little bit angry, you should be a little bit understanding. When the other one is a little bit, you should be understanding. When you are... But I talk about in that chapter 3, page 39, the changelessness. If everything dies, everything, and what is then reliable? You begin to realize there's something in you that is unchanging, like the sky. It's finding that ground in the groundlessness. Something that you can invoke when you're faced with that kind of thing. But then if you realize this, you begin to realize the refuge in yourself. Understand? And you give refuge. And you don't give your love. You understand? And you don't really relate. And then you can... And so therefore sometimes you see, when you really... If suppose
Turn
it's
right.
a very good couple. Sometimes also you see in a couple relationship, it really work. And if you start working with it, and you say to the other person, look, resentful of not being heard, and then becomes it. Am I clear? I think it's very, very important. And that's where sometimes actually many things break up because there's not that understanding or not really appreciation of the real person behind the facade.
Time and again. The question was how to get out of occupation. In that point that the decision they had just made to turn over sovereignty should be to get the president to order Rumsfeld to commence the tribunals. Attorney General John Ashcroft had become a strong internal advocate for starting the tribunals. One way or another, the detainee cases were going to wind up reviewed by the federal courts. If they didn't have a credible tribunal process up and running, Ashcroft said, the Justice Department would be dead in the water when they tried to defend the system at the federal appeals courts. At an NSC meeting with the president, Rice began going through a long paper on the issues that everyone was supposed to have read and understood. Rumsfeld leaned back and made it clear. What do you think about this?
Turn right, then. Your destination will be on the right.
They're bad guys, Rumsfeld said. He believed Americans were so oriented to think the administration had to find a way to get that story out to the public. Bush agreed. How? When? I'm not a lawyer, Rumsfeld reminded them. He couldn't do it.